Big news out of Edmonton this morning is they made a trade with the Ottawa Senators with a prospect swap and some draft capital to gain along the way. But before we get into the full details of the trade, what I think about it, what others think about it, make sure to subscribe here to Oilers Digest, as 91% of you have not yet subscribed to the channel. Make sure to join the ride as we get into the rest of free agency and into training camp in the regular season. Of course, any and all breaking news, Oilers Digest will have it covered. Anything and everything Oilers, you know where to be. Oilers Digest is the channel for all of that. And we'd also like to thank Reynolds.ca, who are proud supporters of Team Canada. And this video is brought to you by them. While they've been supporting our national team defend their home court heading into the Olympics, they've also been helping thousands of Canadians find their home floor all across the country. Whether you are in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, Halifax, Mississauga, Edmonton, Victoria, or St. John's, from coast to coast, Reynolds.ca have a ton of options to find the perfect place and price for you. Their website is clean and easy to use, and you can pinpoint exactly on the map where you want to move, finding all the options in your area. Find your home court at Reynolds.ca and check out their website in the pinned comment down below or in the description also down below. And we'd like to thank Reynolds.ca for helping you guys find the best rentals across the country and for supporting our channel in Team Canada. So without further ado, yes, we have a trade alert this morning. Well was a bit dry when it came to news for the Edmonton Oilers, but rest assured, Jeff Jackson like to make the summer interesting here. Bob Stauffer sort of breaking down the trade there, but as you can see down below, the Oilers have acquired forward Roby Järventie in a 4th-round selection in 2025 from the Ottawa Senators in exchange for forwards Xavier Bourgault and Jake Chiasson. Of course, Xavier Bourgault I covered recently on the channel here, and it wasn't too sure what kind of role he was going to have with the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, with the Bakersfield Condors, he's trying to carve out a role for himself. And I think this is just, a scenery change for him. And then Jake Chiasson, he was down with the Fort Wayne Comets of the ECHL last year, the Oilers ECHL affiliate. And it just seems like he hasn't been the same player ever since he suffered a shoulder injury in junior hockey with the Saskatoon Blades. And again, just a change of scenery for those two. But here Bob Stauffer says the Oilers have liked Roby Järventie for a while, has some size, can skate and shoot, and he's also waiver exempt for another season, and he adds some adding some draft capital, picking up the 4th. Which I think it's a big move for the Oilers. Reclamation project for a reclamation project. They get something, worthwhile with Roby Järventie. He was with the Belleville Senators. I'll get into that a little bit later, but you can see Jeff Jackson carving his own role into the organization, sort of picking up where Ken Holland left off, sort of, I don't want to say getting rid of all of Holland's draft picks that he's made over the years, but he's restocking the cupboards. And then you can sort of see here, in hindsight, kind of burns the Edmonton Oilers, burns me here even a little bit. Of course, it is hindsight, but just looking at the 2021 draft, of course, Minnesota with the 20th overall selection, picking Jesper Wallstedt. Of course, the Oilers traded that pick, traded down, picked Xavier Bourgault, and then the pick right after, the one that everyone makes comparisons to on Twitter that the Oilers, kicking themselves over, of course, is Wyatt Johnston. So, of course, like I said, hindsight is 2020, but just looking at that and seeing what the Oilers could have had, it's like Boston with the 2015 draft all over again. They could have had all that talent, but what can you do? And then looking here from Scott Wheeler, one of the Athletic prospect reporters, says Roby Järventie is the better player right now, but a very low ceiling one. Xavier Bourgault's had a tough time adjusting at the AHL level the last 2 years, but I don't think his development was handled well in Bakersfield, and he's a more talented player than we've seen. Of course, there was a lot of criticism over the Bakersfield head coach Colin Schock playing the veterans more than the developing prospects. You can see there's a list down below. But there's a bit of a botch that Chalk, sort of had in Bakersfield. Of course, prioritizing the veterans when the AHL, it's a developmental league. Sure, it's a professional hockey league, but developer prospects first and foremost. And then he also adds here, I do think the point about Bakersfield is one that applies to a lot of Oilers prospects in the last few years. The young kids aren't getting better there. Of course, Xavier Bourgault, Carter Savoy, who they didn't give a qualifying offer to, of course, traded for his brother Matthew. Reed Schaefer, who's traded to the Nashville Predators in exchange for Matisse Ekholm, and then Matvei Petrov, who lit up the OHL in his draft year. A bit of a hidden gem there, and then Ty Tulio, who was traded to the Buffalo Sabres. And like I mentioned earlier, Jeff Jackson seems to recognize that too and is building a new team. But of course, enough about, Xavier Bourgault. He's come, he's gone. He's a, bit of a question mark relating to the Oilers prospect pool. Of course, before picking up Savoy, it wasn't necessarily the strongest, and he was just a big question mark. He had the size, he had the skill, but he just couldn't put it all together in Bakersfield. Now in Belleville, a bit closer to home, maybe he can achieve, some success. Of course, there was the star probability. 33% in year one compared to year three. Can the Ottawa Senators get something out of that? Who knows? But Roby Järventie comes to Edmonton. Do a little bit of a deep dive here. I'm going to admit it right now, not that much of an expert on Roby Järventie. Of course, he was a part of the 2022 World Junior Team Finland squad that finished in second in silver, lost to Canada in overtime, but I wasn't really picking up all the Finnish prospects. Of course, the Oilers, I don't believe they had one. They might have. Fact check me on that. But looking here at Roby Järventie, last year, almost a point-per-game player with the Belleville Senators. Of course, played 7 games with the Ottawa Senators. And he's just been, I don't want to say not lived up to his potential, because he was a second-round pick in 2020 in that little pandemic draft there. So not every team could, sort of gain the scouting knowledge on all of these players. There's a bit of a weird one, but with Järventie, with the Ottawa Senators, that is a bit of a dysfunctional organization in their own right. I'm not saying the Oilers are perfect in any such way, but with Järventie, another fresh start. That's really this deal boils down to. And Bruce Surlock says he's like the main prospect expert for the Oilers. And, if there's one word you want to trust here, it's Bruce. He says, I like Järventie's skills. His skating is odd but effective. He's an excellent shooter, nice offensive instincts. There were 2 issues I recall with him. One was playing on the outside of the game a lot. That appears to have changed, but he's only seen 2 pro games of his. And the other was his willingness to work hard away from the puck, especially on defense. Time will tell on this. And of course, that kind of relates to Xavier Bourgault's sort of scouting report in the AHL. He's got the size, he's got the skill, well, not necessarily the skill compared to Järventie. He's got the size, but he just plays the perimeter a lot, and he doesn't really know how to use his size. Of course, that was also relating to another Finnish prospect the Oilers had, Jesse Puljujärvi. He was a big player, but didn't use his size, the way you thought he would. He was a massive player. Loved him a lot as an Oiler, but it just didn't all click altogether offensively. Defensively, yes, but not so much offensively. But with Roby Järventie, I'm excited to see what the Oilers could potentially get out of him in Bakersfield. Start him there. If he wants to come up, or if he has the ability to come up to Edmonton, again, I'm excited to see what he does there. Of course, grass might not always be greener on the other side, but it might be greener in Edmonton with the skills surrounding him compared to Ottawa. But let me know down in the comments what you think of the trade. What did you think of Bourgault before he was traded? Do you think he would have carved himself a spot in the Oilers lineup eventually, or would he just be, spinning his wheels in the mud waiting for something to happen before trading? I'm shocked that the Oilers didn't trade Bourgault a bit sooner. And I'm also very glad they didn't wait to trade him, as his value kind of continued to deteriorate if he had, another subpar year in Bakersfield. But again, let me know what you think down in the comments. Have yourself a great day. I'm Matt.